Voice greeting message. If someone is calling from FXO inbound channel into the phone system, we start to play greeting message to instruct the user about what to do next. That message can be replaced by submitting an audio file in WAV format. Add phone basic greeting. Usually, that voice message should indicate the company name, the corresponding number to dial for certain type of business, or the operator number. The user interface here is to allow you to select a phone to ring if the user does not enter any number. Furthermore, the phone can be set to have an operator number so that people can dial this number instead of using its original extension number to reach the phone. You can choose one of the following types of phones as operator: SIP extension number, IAX extension number, channel number connecting to analog phone, and set an operator number for the phone you select. For example, the setting in the diagram will use SIP phone, with extension 6998, as operator, and the operator number is 9, in other words, the phone 6998 will bring if the inbound call does not enter any extension number. And people can dial 9 to reach operator. Follow me. The term follow me implies, there is an incoming call to ring phone A in the office. If phone A does not pick up the call will be forwarded to phone B. If phone B does not answer the call, it will be forwarded to phone C, and so on and so forth as long as the phone list is specified in advance. It can be set via phone basic follow me. For example, for the phone with extension number 7235, if the call shall be forwarded to the number 56992 when nobody picks up the call at extension 7235, we set as follows: extension number 7235, number to dial 56992, timeout 20. The whole scenario from the beginning will be: a call comes in and rings the phone 7235 for 30 seconds, the system value, comma, if there is no one answer the phone at 7235, the system will dial to 56992. The person at 56992 will hear if he/she would like to accept the call or reject the call by pressing 1 or 2. If the system does not get positive feedback, i.e., the person presses 1 to accept the call, in 20 seconds, the call will go to the voicemail of the extension 7235, if it exists. You can have fine-tune on the setting by selecting the extension number on the left and press display button, its associated number, S, to forward will be listen on the right, and you can use delete and add to modify that list. Cascade multiple phone systems as one. Let's consider the following scenario. For a company, it might have several branch offices and each branch office has its own phone system. How to glue all the small phone systems in every branch offices into a single system so that people in different offices can call each other like they are working in the same office. In the following sections, we will introduce how to use IAX Trunk or SIP Trunk to do that. Trunk account. For the calls from the other hosts, we need to give each of them an account so that they can connect. We will use IAX Trunk in the following example so that only IAX Trunk account will be created. To complete the setting we mentioned above, you should have the setting in phone Cascade Trunk account on SW2. For IAX Trunk account, go a password, go a 123 so that it can be used in SW1. Similarly, on SW1, you should create an account Bali with password Bali123 for SW2 to establish the link. The example to set up IAX Trunk will be introduced in the following section. SW1 SW2 DACB. IAX Trunk can be established via phone Cascade IAX Trunk. Let's see the following diagram. On SW1, the IAX account Bali is created. On SW2, the IAX account Goa is created. A and B are registered on SW1, C and D are registered on SW2. A can talk to B whereas C can talk to D as soon as the phone accounts A, B, C, and D are created respectively on their own servers. But what if we want to have to scenario to place phone calls from A to D? In the following example, we will use IAX Trunk for cross-server communication. Assume that we are at SW1 with IP address 192.168.11.200 and SW2 is with IP address 172.16.8.1. For the users to dial to SW2 from SW1, we need to have following setting. In phone Cascade IAX Trunk on SW1, you can enter remote host name or IP, 172.16.8.1 dialing pattern, _2xxxx number of dial digits to strip, 1 access account, Goa access password Goa 123 for access account and password here to enter in SW1, you need to check phone Cascade Trunk account at SW2 for the right information. For dialing pattern _2xxxx with number of dial digits to strip 1, it means you need to dial 2xxxx, E.G, 21324, to reach the user with extension 1324 at SW2. The first dialing digit 2 in 21324 will be stripped so that the rest of digits will be sent into the trunk as the target extension number. So, for the field number of dial digits to strip, you might think how many digits you want to keep from the beginning dial digits as the identifier of the remote host. The rest of digits will be processed by the remote host. In this case, it is an extension number. Similarly, you set the following on SW2, remote host name or IP, 192.168.11.200 dialing pattern, _5xxxx number of dial digits to strip, 1 access account, Bali access password Bali 123. After the setting above is completed, restart the VoIP processes on both SW1 and SW2. Then, users on SW1 can talk to users on SW2 through the IAX Trunk. In the case introduced above, we use two accounts Goa and Bali on the two servers respectively to lock to each other. There exists some other scenarios to set up IAX Trunk, but it would be easier to manage in this way. SW1 SW2 DACB. SIP Trunk. How to create SIP Trunk between two hosts? It can be done via phone Cascade SIP Trunk. The concept of SIP Trunk is similar to IAX Trunk. You create SIP accounts on the two servers respectively and put dialing rules with the corresponding accounts. In our system, if you set up a SIP Trunk pointing to a host, we accept the SIP Trunk connection from that host automatically. Thus, you have the choice by not creating account for SIP Trunk. In the case that server is using different UDP port for SIP connection, you just use the field UDP port to do the fine-tune. For example, in phone Cascade SIP Trunk, we set trunk identifier, VDIS remote host name or IP, 192.168.11.49 dial pattern, _5xxxx number of dial digits to strip, 2 transport, UDP port, 5060 remote host access account, video test remote host access password, test 123 in the diagram below, _5xxxx means the call will be routed to that server if the pattern is matched. On some versions of builds, the system also provides the choices to suppress video or not sending requests to check if the other side is alive. You might check with the other side if you should do so. The field trunk identifier is for internal expression only. It would be easier for you to remember the destination of the trunk. In the example above, we only fill the following fields: trunk identifier remote host name or IP dialing pattern number of dial digit, S, to strip remote host access account remote host access password. It is quite similar to the case of IAX Trunk, and it is enough to set in this way for outbound calls while interfacing with other systems. If both sides are Azblink border controllers, there is no problem to set up in this way in a simple network environment. However, for some IMS, IP multimedia subsystem, they impose checking on caller ID, domain name on the SIP address, or they would ask you to use outbound proxy, or they just lock the IP address without using SIP account to verify the usage. We will not introduce those cases one by one. You should consult to your service provider for more details. After setting SIP outgoing trunk, you might find out some changes are reflected in the SIP trunk account screen. For example, some records will be shown as VDIS-192.168.11.49:5060. It means we have a SIP trunk VDIS to the machine 192.168.11.49 by using UDP port 5060. On the other hand, the machine 192.168.11.49 needs to provide a SIP account for this machine to use. IAX peer dialing rules to cascade several machines into one system. It can be done via setting up IAX Trunk or SIP Trunk with associated dialing rules as introduced in the previous sections. But those methods introduced in the previous sections require that each machine be with fixed IP address. In private local area network environment, getting a fixed IP address for each machine is not an issue because the local admin people have the control over the network environment. However, if those machines are deployed across the internet, some of the machines might not have fixed public IP address because of sitting behind NATed firewall or using DHCP or PPPoE to get floating public IP addresses. As shown in the diagram, the machine A is with public fixed IP address and machine B is sitting behind a firewall. There is no problem for machine B to set up a dial plan to reach A via IAX Trunk. For SIP Trunk, it might need some effort and require SIP-friendly firewall sitting in between, but how about from A to B? To initialize a connection from A to B, usually the connection would be blocked by the firewall unless port forwarding is used in the firewall to forward the associated traffic to machine B. For IAX traffic, it only needs to forward the traffic associated one UDP port. For SIP and associated RTP traffic, the situation is getting complicated. It might not be simply done by port forwarding in the ordinary firewall. But there exists situation that the NATed firewall sitting in between cannot be touched, or it is owned by different organization. In this case, we introduce the following approach. From B to dial A, since A has fixed public IP address, it only needs to set up an IAX Trunk account on A and let B connect A by using this trunk account. From A to dial B, we let A create an IAX peer account and let B use this account to register on A. Once A is aware that B is connected, A just uses the connection to route the calls to B if there exists an IAX account on B to allow phone calls coming from A. Those steps can be done via the user interfaces in this section and the following section. At the first glance, add phone Cascade IAX peer rule. it might be difficult to understand the fields shown in the user interface. Let's just compare it to the dialing rule for IAX Trunk. In the screen of dialing rules for IAX Trunk, it needs to fill IP address, but in this case, we cannot use IP address to set up dialing rule from machine A to B. The functionality is replaced by using peer account and its associated password. Thus, the concept is still the same, you just think that we can use peer account to reach B. The explanation of each field is as follows: peer account to be created, the IAX peer account to be created on this machine so that the other end can use this account to establish connection. Peer account password, the password associated with the IAX peer account dialing pattern, it can be of the form _368XXXX. For the dialing number matching this pattern, the call will be routed to the remote machine registering with the IAX peer account above number of dial digits to strip as remote gateway ID. Some of the digits will be stripped from the dialing number and sent to the remote machine. Remote host access account, the account to access the remote machine. Remote host access password, the password associated with the account on the remote machine. For example, add phone Cascade IAX peer rule, we can have peer account to be created, ADA peer account password, ADA 2245 dialing pattern, _368XXXX number of dial digits to strip, 3 remote host access account, Bali remote host access password, Bali 3325. On the other hand, use the account ADA to do IAX registration toward this machine so that we can locate it, and it needs to create the account Bali for the side to access.